right, so good evening everyone. My name is Sebastian. I'm one of the co-founders of Extract. And my goal for today is to actually introduce a sustainable heating and cooling technique to you guys that you might not have heard of yet. So the technique is aquathermal heating and cooling. I'm going into more details about the technology in a minute. But first I want to talk about actually aquathermal heating and cooling in the broader aspect than the technology that I will talk about most today. So if you look at heating and cooling, then we see that 50% of our global energy consumption goes to heating and cooling. And only 14% of that amount is currently produced in a sustainable way. So every year we emit about 6 billion tons of carbon dioxide just to heat and cool our buildings. And of course, I think a lot of people know about solar panels, the wind farms, and stuff like that. So we are really focusing on making electricity more sustainable, but we are not really working on the heating and cooling perspective from a sustainability perspective. And this is actually a bad thing because really heating and cooling is the elephant in the room if you look at energy. Because like you see on the figure here again, 50% of our energy consumption is related to heating and cooling, and we are not making a lot of progress because we only have 14% of that amount that is sustainable. In Belgium, by the way, only 8%. And of course, we are doing a lot of things as humanity. We are looking at waste heat, for example. We are looking at heat pumps with geothermal energy, with aerothermal energy, but there's one big source that we are currently outlooking in this transition. And it's actually a source that is, I think, right over there or right behind me in Antwerp here. And so you might have guessed it, it's surface water. So rivers, lakes, canals, or in this example in Antwerp, the River Scheldt. So the river is Scheldt, for example, or any type of surface water is actually has a huge potential of thermal energy that we can tap into with heat pump technology, just like geothermal energy or aerothermal energy. How we are going to specifically do that, I'm going to introduce in a couple of minutes. But first I want to talk about the big potential it could have actually in our world from the heating and cooling perspective. So if you actually make this mind exercise yourself and think about the world and all the cities that are located in it, you would actually see that a lot of them are located very close to rivers, lakes, canals, or seas. And this was actually the reason behind this was actually that they were able to cultivate our societies for transportation, for irrigation purposes. But so nowadays we can actually tap into another reason why we would use these water bodies. And that is from the sustainable heating and cooling perspective. To give you an example on that, I'm giving a figure of the city of Leuven, where our company is located. So if you look at the heat demand in Leuven, you would notice that 67% of the heat demand is located in less than 1 kilometer from the River Dijle. And this is actually a very good range where we could tap into if you would build a district heating network on the River Dijle and provide sustainable heating and cooling to that city. Maybe you are thinking, how sustainable exactly? So this is shown in this slide. So like I said, it's heat pump technology. If you want to use a heat pump, you use actually 3 out of 4 parts. If you want to deliver 4 parts of heat, then you get 3 parts from a natural source, like surface water, for example, or it could also be geothermal energy or aerothermal energy from the air, and 1 part you still need from electricity. Like we currently do, if we use gas, we use 100% from that gas to produce our heating. So this also means if we would use grey electricity for our heat pumps, then we could actually have an emission reduction of 65% compared to nowadays when using gas for heating. If we would use green electricity to run our heat pumps, then this could actually almost become 100% carbon neutral heating or cooling. All right, so maybe let's go into more details what aquathermal heating and cooling exactly is. So this is an image where an aquathermal heating and cooling landscape is shown. So what you can see here are several buildings. For example, in the center of the image, You see an office building on the right side of the image. You see an apartment building. We also see a small district network of a couple of houses connected to it. We also see a castle-like building that is connected to a lake. And like I said, we have several types of buildings that are using ecothermal energy here, but we also have several types of sources. You see the river going there, but also there is a lake that is being tapped into. And so this is actually a good example of how people can tap into this potential. So to thermally provide their heating from the rivers or the lakes. And how is this actually done, getting the thermal energy out of it? Like I said, mainly with the heat pump technology. So very simple, what you do is you extract water from, you pump it actually from the water body to the heat pump. What the heat pump does, it gets the thermal energy out of that water body. It elevates it to a higher state using electricity. And again, like I said, for 4 thermal units of heat that you need, you get 3 out of the water body, and only 1 you need to add with electricity. So it makes actually an efficiency of 400%, if you would like to call it like that. The other part is, of course, an internal delivery system, which is just the same as it would have been done with gas. And what is also happening, of course, when we get heat out of the water body, we're doing it actually more or less like a fridge. We get heat out of the interior of a fridge as well, which means we can keep it cool. So we create a cool effect there. And this is also happening with the water body as well. So we make the water body cooler when we heat from the water body. And this is actually very important because we get actually a thermal effect there. Are we cooling the water body too much? Then it can become critical. So we need simulations in a way beforehand to know if we can tap into the potential or not, for example, for a building, a couple of houses, or maybe an entire city. And that's when actually the modeling comes into play, like is shown here. So we have to regard actually the water body as something that is interacting with the environment. Every time that we get heat out of the water body, we will create an impact. But like you can see on the middle in the screen here, there are a lot of fluxes going on there. So like the sun, the air that is interacting with the water body, also the ground. And they create the effect that actually we are having a thermal battery. Every time we make an impact, the effect will be recharged again by nature. So our thermal battery will recharge again, and we have potential for the next hour, for the hour afterwards, and for the next day. So it constantly helps us to make the thermal potential be there again. And this is actually the start of our story as well. So myself, 3 years ago, I was searching a thesis topic, and I met Stan de Jonge, our co-promoter of our thesis. We introduced ecothermal energy to us. And he asked us to start modeling the potential of a river if he would like to use this as a thermal source. And that's what we did. So we developed a model that could tell what the potential of a river was if we would use it with ecothermal technology. So would the impact be too big? Then we know, okay, at this moment we are at our critical level, so this is the maximum amount of heat that we can get out of it. And so this was done with my colleague as well, Jan de Nijer, and we also supplied our thesis when we finished it to compete with the Vlaamse Scriptieprijs. And that's what we also won actually at that moment. So we, yeah, there it is. So we won the Flemish Thesis Award in a way for best thesis in 2020. And actually it gave us a lot of attention. A lot of companies were interested in what we did in our model, and it really gave us the idea, okay, maybe we have to start giving our model as a service to companies, so they are able to tell if their building that they want to sustainably heat could be able to have that heat from a river or lake, because that's what our model was able to tell. And so then the three of us, so myself, Jan and Stan, we decided to start Extract in July 2021. And so I'm going to more details what we exactly do. So You have to regard Extract actually as a service company that uses digital twins to analyze what the thermal potential of water bodies is. And we can develop this or apply this on two levels, a master planning level and also project development level. To explain better what I mean with those two levels, I'm going into some examples of projects that we did. So on a master planning level, for example, what you can see here is the province of East Flanders. It has a lot of rivers in the province. And they asked us what is the potential of all these rivers from a thermal perspective for our province. How many homes can we heat with these rivers? And that's when we started analyzing it. So we actually modeled how East Flanders could be providing the heat to their buildings with ecothermal energy instead of gas. And so that's what you can see in this image. So of course, like I said, if we heat with ecothermal energy on the rivers, we cool down the water bodies. And these are the cold spots that you see there on the video. Every time there is a cold spot, we know that there is a critical condition at that location, and we know that we have to take into account that there is not a maximal amount of thermal energy available, so that the potential is not infinite. And this is actually a way that we can help the province to tell them these are the interesting locations for ecothermal energy in your province. And this is also something that we developed to help them with that. It's actually a map of East Flanders where they can click on interesting areas and they can see, okay, at this location, as you will see in a minute there, these are locations on a very small perspective where you can see, okay, this is a hotspot for ecothermal energy or not, for ecothermal heating. So they can really say, okay, at this location, we are going to start developing heat networks to sustainably heat and cool our buildings at that location. Apart from the master planning, we also wanted to create more impact by really realizing things. And that's when we decided to also go to a project development level. And a very good example is an installation that we recently built at the castle of the Merode in Westerlo. So it's actually a very old building from the 14th century, so over 500 years old. And yeah, of course, a lot of people were thinking you cannot put a heat pump there. It is not able to provide enough thermal energy to it. You need gas, big boilers for that. But we proved them wrong. So we installed a heat pump there using ecothermal energy with a heat exchanger in the water, like you can see on the image on the left. So it's actually, in a way, a very simple solution. The client is very happy about it because he reduces his electricity bill every day. And he also reduces his, and most importantly, his carbon emission impact. All right, so these are some things that we already did, but I'm gonna sum up some other realizations of us. So a year ago, we actually achieved the award from Best Startup in Leuven, which is of course, yes, Leuven is a big entrepreneurial city, so it was a big achievement for us and a big reward. We also already built 2 installations. As a young company of 2 years old, this is already a big deal for us. And we are working on 32 feasibility studies or already finalized them, also 5 of them abroad, and also in there an American multinational client. So we are expanding our company just as the potential of ecothermal energy is everywhere available in the earth. So what's next? I think a lot of things will happen, and I can talk about a lot of things here. From the heating perspective, from ecothermal heating perspective, also from our company. But if I look at our company, there's one main thing that I want to say to you guys, that actually a lot will happen for us in the near future, but no funding. And I think a lot of companies here will talk about funding, and it's important to have a lot of investors and grow quickly. But we actually want to grow as a company in a very organic way. We want to create our own path and create our way in that, and not let us push in a direction that we don't want. And in that way also grow together with the ecothermal heating technology. All right, so some lessons learned where I'm gonna fish off with. Actually some things that I learned through our course of Extract, but also from other perspective in my life. And I'm gonna tell that with some quotes. So the first one is try and fail, but never fail to try. I think if a lot of students are here probably, and if you think about starting a startup yourself, the main message that I would bring is that actually you will never know what the result will be if you do not start. And there's no failure in failing actually. You have to just go with the flow, see what happens, and give it a try. If you will never have done it, you'll probably regret it anyways. Then another one, whether you think you can or you can't, you are right, comes close to that as well. If you start a startup, then your attitude is very important. So if you say, okay, I'm gonna do this, then go with all your power and dedicate your life to it in a way. And of course, it's important to do other things in life as well, but the mentality is very strong there and important. And then turning your passion into your job is easier than finding a job that matches your passion. So when I was finishing my studies, I thought about this and I was actually thinking, okay, I love this topic so much. Why shouldn't I start a company with it so I can actually think about it every day, which will probably make me the most happy version of myself. And then the last one is more from the regard of the company again, get people to the honeymoon phase. So a lot of people will be interesting at first about what you do and they will say, okay, it's very cool. But the most important thing is to keep them hooked, tell them why it's a very good idea and show them that you're the best to do it and to help them with it. All right, so thank you very much for listening to me. But again, I think my main message would be here, think about ecothermal heating and cooling more now, about the sustainability aspect of it. And a quote that I would like to end with always is actually, if you now think about rivers, you have to really look at it from another perspective and also look at the heat that is actually trapped inside it and that we have to get out to make our society more sustainable. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Sebastian. Yes, let's sit down. Before letting you go, I can't help but to ask you some questions. So maybe a first question, what does the future hold for Extract? What are the next plans?
Yeah, I think I, in a way, already answered it. I think a lot of things will happen for us. We have some big projects coming our way that we are going to have the upcoming years. But the main message for us is that we want to grow organically in those projects. So we are not being funded right now, and it's also not the main goal for us right now. We want to have a lot of projects, create impact from that, and show a lot of people that we can do things on our own pace and grow organically as a company in that way.
Amazing, Sebastian, really inspiring. Maybe then one last question before letting you go. So you told us you live by the quote, invest your time in something you find fascinating and then think of a way to make a business out of it. Can you elaborate on this?
Yeah, I think that's indeed an important thing. So I think there's a lot of things you can spend your time in life, but there's actually finding a way that you find very nice and appeals to you and where you want to invest the most time of. That's going to be maybe the good idea to also start a company out of that, because that will be also the thing that you do daily and that you have to be inspired about. So you can also give that story to other people and tell it every day.
I can't agree more, Sebastian. Thank you very much for sharing your journey and please give him a last round of applause. SebastianBaes.
Thank you.